This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to another of our Center Court one-on-one interviews. My fireside chat without the fire will be today with Bradley Staats, who runs the MBA program. In fact, he runs all the MBA programs at UNC's Kenan-Flagler Business School. Bradley also is the faculty director of a new four-year-old center, the Center for the Business of Health. And we want to get into that because healthcare, I believe, is going to be one of the biggest areas for growth in MBA employment in coming years to rival technology, I think, because of the size of that sector in the economy as well as its importance. Bradley, welcome.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here today.
Now, I know that the MBA program at UNC has an incredible leadership program and a tremendous amount of emphasis is placed on leadership in the program. Can you give us the parameters of that? How are you teaching leadership, and how do you think it may differ from what other schools are doing?
Sure. So, as you pointed out, kind of leadership starts as the center of what we do. And it really begins from orientation, as folks walk in the door, we're having that conversation around leading and managing. Back in 2020, as we took a look at what was happening in the world and at our curriculum, we realized we needed to go even deeper. And so at that point, we created a new core course on inclusive leadership that we put right there at the start of the program and continue to build around. If we look, from that beginning, it's then threaded through as Professor Mike Christian leads our efforts with the full-time MBA program, and he and his colleagues are working with students, or coaching them in their teams that kind of anchor that first semester before we have a chance then to build with the subsequent coursework, getting into kind of very experiential, hands-on activities and opportunities. And so, I think what we see is from the curricular side, there's a great deal of depth. In addition, we can think about extracurriculars. So student clubs kind of are at the center of the journey as well. We see over half of our students take a leadership role in the different clubs. And those run from, the career side to thinking about kind of individual interests and, identification, all sorts of opportunities there. And so I think we're really proud of the fact that from kind of start to completion of the program and then beyond, our students have a chance in a safe way to really build their leadership skills.
So Brad, bring me through the MBA program. Let's say I'm an admitted student. When do I first show up on campus, and what happens to me?
Sure. So it actually all starts with a new innovation we have around a pre-matriculation program called Business Foundations. So before you come, we share this new asynchronous material with you, really to help all students prepare for success. So we know folks come with different backgrounds, and we want to make sure that there's a pathway for a soft landing. And so irrespective of background, this will help folks succeed. This kind of new, unique free offering begins the journey. Then our students.
How long is that online module?
Yep, so it's 3 modules around accounting, finance, and analytics, and it's 10 hours for each of those. It could go quicker, but kind of up to 10 hours. And they're, not only kind of interactive lectures built in there, but also opportunities to test yourself as you go along, evaluate kind of the progress.
When did you start that?
That is getting launched this year. So in the past, we've
brand
done
new. Okay.
Brand new.
Cool.
We're releasing it kind of May 1st to our newly admitted students. In the past, we've done an in-person interaction, and what we found is just with the changing nature of things, great to get it in folks' hands sooner, so that then when they show up in August, we jump right into orientation. And then the first 2 weeks of the program, we're really excited about, as it brings together leading and managing and inclusive leadership, as I was talking about, but also kind of a new innovation from last year, basically unstructured problem solving. It's really at the top of things that our employers are asking for: leadership, analytics, unstructured problem solving. And so we're going to get kind of 2 of those 3 right at the student experience in those first 2 weeks. After that, then they jump into kind of the traditional academic coursework for the rest of that first semester. And so that's really the breadth, right? So taking your marketing and your strategy and your accounting and finance that you'd expect to see. In that first semester, they have a chance to kind of start to craft their journey as kind of they can think about it, is it consulting, is it marketing, is it finance, and have a little bit of choice there, but really the world opens up to them starting in the spring. And that's where kind of we see the variety that folks can kind of craft what they're doing. We have around 125 electives in the MBA program. And so in that spring and then in the second year, folks are working through, and we can talk more about concentrations and kind of the different pathways that fit what their career goals are so they can accomplish their objectives.
How many different concentrations do you have?
So right now, we have 12 concentrations. They kind of run the gamut from, consulting, finance, technology, analytics, healthcare, sustainable enterprise, real estate, energy. And they really create a defining experience for students who want to go down those pathways. Take something like our real estate concentration. That has really been kind of central and defining for us as a school, that folks get to work with our Leonard Woods Center that kind of connects them with practice. They have coursework that they're constantly interacting with real opportunities. There are funds in real estate and plenty of elsewhere, where folks can make investments. There's a capstone in most of our concentrations where they're doing a full real estate project and getting to evaluate it and think about what it means for that kind of development side, for that kind of more investing side. And so, not every student does a concentration. You don't have to, but it's often a great way for folks to kind of work through the program.
Yeah, Brad, I'm glad you mentioned real estate because I know that that is a particular strength of the school, and a lot of people may not know that. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily think that a school on Chapel Hill would be a great place to go to study and get your hands around real estate. And indeed, you have one of the best programs in the world in this area.
I appreciate that, John. It's been something that for decades that has really been a central focus of the school. We've been lucky to have kind of some early leaders in the space who then kind of have built on the shoulders of one another.
What role does experiential learning play in the curriculum?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if we think about experiential learning, it's central to what we do as a school. That as kind of we look at, all of our courses, we have recently been through a strategic planning process. And as part of that process, kind of one of the key principles was a curriculum co-created with business. And so when we said, hey, what does that mean to us? It's not only identifying the concepts, but how do we apply them? How do we think about the projects that exist? How do we bring folks into the classroom from kind of all different areas? We see it in the core. Kind of we were joking about my last name would suggest that I teach statistics. Traditionally, I have taught analytics, and we would do a final project where we'd bring in kind of a consulting firm that had some data. We were looking at the data, analyzing it, working through with them. How might you then kind of blend that analytics into problem solving into presentations? We can look at our STAR program. We're really proud of our student teams achieving results. It's kind of our student consulting program. We have hundreds of students work through that one each year, and it really spans the gamut from opening a hospital in Africa to thinking about new DE&I initiatives with Procter & Gamble. That throughout, we have faculty advisors for these small teams, work closely with the clients, and folks generally describe it as their most intense part of the experience, but often the best part too. And so I think we see this again and again, that as faculty we're having this conversation, and throughout working with our partners to how do we convert kind of the theory into practice.
And fill me in, who will my classmates be when I show up on campus? What size is the incoming cohort, and how does it break down in terms of international, gender, the whole thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think as we've thought about the size of our class, I like to describe it as sort of a Goldilocks size, that it's not too big, it's not too small. We aim for just right. So typically in kind of that 270 range is what we see. And so it's big enough that you have some real diversity in your classmates. Folks have worked across all different areas, be it the globe, be it industries. In addition to, it's big enough to have that, but small enough that you still get to know everybody. And folks really kind of love that relational aspect. As we think about kind of that international component, it varies, but it's probably going to be in around the 30% range. That then, we're going to see kind of increasing, diversity across other categories as well when we look at the class.
Yeah, that's great. Has the size of the program been relatively stable over the last few years, or has it grown or decreased or what?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it has been reasonably stable. We actually, in the COVID year, we bumped the size of the class as we saw really an opportunity to try to help with the fact that there had been so much disruption. And so I think it's kind of a highlight of what we aim for, to be really responsive to what's happening in the marketplace. And so, we were planning on kind of a typical class size when March of 2020 hit, and made the decision at that point, hey, I think we should grow what we're doing. We can make the adjustments. And so that class actually went all the way up to 340 students. But generally, we're in that kind of 270 to 290 range, and we've been pretty stable for a number of years.
That's great. Are there any other hidden strengths that you would consider of the school? I mean, real estate, it's been a long, it's well known. It's been out there for a long time. But I wonder if there are other hidden strengths.
No, I appreciate the question. And so you mentioned one I'd highlight early, which is healthcare. So I do lead our Center for the Business of Health. And this was a really intentional initiative from our Dean, Doug Shackelford, really kind of going on 5 years ago, to say, hey, healthcare is a fifth of the economy. We here in Chapel Hill have kind of every health sciences school you would want, in addition to a major academic medical center. Here in RTP, it's a major area for healthcare as a hub with innovation. Shouldn't we take all of these fantastic things and do even more? And so the center's goal is really to bring all of that together to help curate the experience for students, in addition to kind of the thought leadership goals across UNC. And so, what we've seen is a steady increase in healthcare jobs. We've always had a lot of students go into healthcare, but where once it might have primarily been pharma, we see more and more on the healthcare consulting side, folks going into payers, innovation, technology, health tech roles, and even a little bit of the provider space too. And so I think that is a huge opportunity here in Kenan-Flagler to be part of something that's booming. There are other great areas too. I'd highlight we have a wonderful energy center that you don't think of energy necessarily in Chapel Hill. And Stephen Arbogast, who leads that effort, has spent a lot of time kind of moving across the whole value stream. So you can come and get a chance to see all aspects of energy. It's integrated tightly with kind of our sustainability center that was one of the first and continues to be a strength of the school. And so students can come at it from a bunch of different ways, which again, I think really sets them up for success.
Absolutely. You also have a very successful online MBA program, and we do an early school in this game. And I wonder if there's any interaction between the full-time MBAs and the online cohorts.
There is opportunity. So we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary of that program. And, I think that we certainly have benefited from that knowledge of multimodalities as we've all been managing COVID and been able to think about, okay, how do we structure classes with all of these changes? Where do we use asynchronous material? How do we deliver kind of compelling virtual experiences? One of the things that we're able to do because of the breadth of our programs is offer students the chance to take classes selectively across those programs. So, students can take an online MBA elective if they realize there's something there that maybe they want to get into, or just it's an opportunity that fits a little bit better with their schedule. So we have that interaction. Increasingly with things like, and I'll take healthcare as an example, we bring together our working professionals healthcare club alongside our full-time MBA healthcare club. And what's great about that is, really the learning that takes place, right? You might have, somebody who's been an orthopedic surgeon for 25 years, and you're now talking to them about kind of what that looks like, or increasingly they're working at the company someone may want to get hired by. And so networking expands, not only alumni, you might do it, but now you have a student at the same time. And then we've actually seen more and more of that interaction, which I think is a really exciting theme. And I think one of the kind of, if I look forward, themes I see of everything is crossing a little bit more now.
Yes. Well, in fact, in looking forward, obviously we're going through a pretty unprecedented time. The pandemic is part of that. Inflation has returned to the United States in a big way. We have issues about the global supply chain, which many people believe is broken and won't be repaired anytime soon. You have the emergence of artificial intelligence and machine learning on the horizon that's going to change a lot about the way we work and we live. Data analytics has become exceedingly important in the last 5 years.
Yep.
Looking at all these changes and all this turmoil, how do you think it's all going to inform your MBA program in the future?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, John, and it's easy to get overwhelmed by it, given all of those things that you're highlighting. I would say a couple of things. I look at the MBA fundamentally as a T-shaped degree, that there's breadth that we need to acquire, right? All of those core courses you think about, as well as the depth. What is the specialization? What is the value you bring to the table? Now, why I think that's so important is that breadth helps you be the translator. When we look at, you mentioned a bunch of things that are going to be happening. Some of those you might be an expert in, and we're going to give you the courses so you can make that choice. But many of them would take, decades. And so instead, you're going to have to work across the teams. And I think we're going to see that continue to be the case, right? How do we help MBAs be successful translators? And it's just going to be they're translating different things. So we've, amped up the amount of analytics that we're teaching because that's critical. We've changed the context of what we're doing. I mentioned the co-creation with business. I think we'll continue to see that. I do think in general, we're going to see, a couple of themes in education around modularization and lifelong learning that we know folks need, right? 2 years are fantastic. It's awesome. We do all sorts of great things, but you need a lot more over time. And so how do you build a relationship? We talk a lot about at Carolina in general, our goal is that it's not the X years you're on campus, but it's the next 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it might look like. And I think that's where the modularization comes in, right? As we shrink down kind of the pieces, into kind of smaller bites, then there's a chance to provide those at different stages. I think the other thing, there's an exciting initiative one of our kind of faculty leads is working on right now, is trying to leverage artificial intelligence around helping students navigate courses and career pathways. So this individual has worked with two-sided marketplaces, Match.com, Monster, gaming applications. And so he's partnering with some kind of other technology companies to see, hey, what are the skills that folks need? What was it that got them there? How can we now kind of do some analytics and try to craft an approach that lets folks kind of get through the program in kind of an even more impactful way?
And I know at one point you were developing global immersions that were essentially virtual environments.
Absolutely. Yep. So that has continued to be something that we're working on. We talk about it as our KF Next program. That kind of investment in innovation continues to be a critical role. And I think this is back to, you mentioned the online MBA program. Part of that decade of experience has been seeing, hey, where is technology going? How do we bring technology into everything we do? And sometimes it will be, we're coming up here, in another month, we'll have our global immersions where we take students out and they get a chance to go to, we have a great healthcare one in Switzerland where they'll meet with kind of pharma and delivery and WHO and different folks like that. But also, how do we bring it back to Chapel Hill, right? You want that kind of back and forth. And that's where we have done virtual reality kind of projects to experience, whether it's going somewhere else in the globe or our faculty member who teaches people analytics just has been working through kind of a very cool virtual reality simulation that he's incorporating into his class.
Very cool. Now, Brad, one of the things I like to do when I visit a campus is to go out for drinks with the students afterward. And one question I inevitably ask is, what are the 3 things that you believe will resonate with you long after you graduate from your MBA experience? What do you think your alums would tell me?
That's a great question, and good to do it over a drink, perhaps. Plenty of great spots down on Franklin Street. We can have the conversation there next time, John, when you're in town. I think it would start with the relationships, right? The interactions with the other faculty, the students, the staff. But fundamentally, they'd say each other, right? We create, as a school, an environment that helps folks to forge lifelong friendships, as well as that strong professional network. And so I think that's probably number one. I think that what's going to stick with them, number 2, is the learning, right? That they're going to think about, they've had this opportunity to shape their experience, right? That they, were doing a venture capital fund or the real estate fund or that STAR project where they were hands-on. Maybe it went well and they knocked it out of the park. Maybe they stumbled a little bit along the way too, and kind of had that failure experience within the safe space of the school that they could learn from, as they approach it. I think the third would be around kind of the Carolina way, that how folks treat each other, that this opportunity that kind of business and organizations, there are times when it's a win-lose exercise, but much more often it can be win-win, right? That we can actually find ways to grow the pie, and that collaboration, that interaction with one another has taught them, hey, I can get the job done, I can lift other people up, and it's going to help me have kind of a stronger return in the long run.
So for those who are interested in that Carolina way of learning and that collaborative spirit at your school, what should they do right now? Obviously, we still have a lingering pandemic. I don't know if you're inviting potential applicants to campus to check the place out. What's the best step?
Yeah, so still it would be kind of going through the webpage. We're not, they're welcome to come themselves. We're doing the primary interactions virtually just to make it as easy as possible for everybody. And so kind of I would certainly head online and can check us out there, hopefully apply, reach out, lots of interaction points that we have kind of all there around the mini seminars and places to learn more.
And I'm sure you must have student ambassadors who agree to talk to would-be applicants, right?
Absolutely. Yep. No, we love for folks to get to talk to our students because then they get a real feel for what the place is like, right? It's nice that they can, hear a few words from an associate dean, but we all know that you want to get the real dirt, and that comes from talking to the students.
I also think if you have a deep interest in a particular area, let's say real estate or healthcare, you can reach out to a professor in that area and just explore what are the opportunities, what happens to students who pursue them, where do they end up, what can I expect, how deeply will my dive be?
Yep.
And I think that could be very valuable because it would lead to an understanding of what you're going to sign up for in a way that you may not get from reading the website or just talking casually to people.
No, absolutely. And so, I mean, part of the website is then to try to help route people to make it as easy as possible, right? So when you express that interest in healthcare, not only will we connect the student ambassador to you, but from the center, we have the great Suzanne Killian, who's our kind of healthcare academy lead, and she'll reach out to you to have a conversation as well, so she can tell you about things. Absolutely. Folks who want to reach out. We as a faculty member before, I had a leadership role. I loved when I heard from folks, and I still do. You can see our clubs and our club leaders, and they're happy to have those conversations too. And I think, John, you're getting to a point that's really important as you think about success in MBA programs, which is for any individual, regardless of where you go. I would argue, there's an element of success, which is what you make of it. And so the sooner you can take that on and think about what you want to explore, how you want to push it forward, the better off you'll be. And so, I'd love for y'all to take a look at what's going on at UNC. Where do you think you fit in? And reach out. Though we'll do our best to make sure we reach out to you too.
Great advice. Well, Bradley, it's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, John. I've enjoyed it.
Okay, now I'm going to take you up on that inadvertent invite to have a drink on Franklin.
Absolutely. I've kind of looked forward to getting a chance to chat, John. I've enjoyed reading your stuff in the past, and obviously you're a kind of great source of information of what's going on, and would love to get a chance to meet in person. I know you and Doug have had conversations in the past, but we'd be great to have you here.
Absolutely. I've got to come down for your 10-year anniversary of your online MBA program, at the very least.
Absolutely.
So Bradley, a pleasure. For all of you out there, I hope you learned a lot about the MBA program at Kenan-Flagler Business School at UNC at Chapel Hill. Great place to study, great place to live for 2 years, a wonderful environment. And think of all the different concentrations the school has to do deep dives in. So we've been speaking with Bradley Staats, who is the Associate Dean of all the MBA programs, not just a full-time MBA, and of course, the Director of the Center for the Business of Healthcare. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.